Hi, I'm Porvi,
Hi, I'm Tiffany.
I'm Ben.
I'm Adam.
I'm Marcus.
and our product is golden detection.
Let's start with some facts. 1.16 trillion is the total annual economic cost of cancer through healthcare expenditure and a loss of productivity in 2010. 90 billion is the amount spent in the US on cancer-related healthcare in 2014. 4 out of every 100 men will die from prostate cancer.
So to solve these problems, we're looking for a simple, affordable, and effective solution. And our solution is golden detection. So how is it simple? A test to detect prostate cancer only involves a small prick of blood and a shake of a bottle to yield results, as we'll explain later. How is it affordable? Each kit includes 4 tests, which will last throughout a year, and each kit only costs $20. So this form of detection is not limited to only those who have a lot of money. And how is it effective? Gold nanoparticles coated with NACT PSA will detect recurring prostate cancer, as we'll get into later. If used early enough, we can ensure that patients can get the correct treatment before it's too late.
In 2013, Imperial College developed a diagnostic test for recurrent prostate cancer. They attached a short peptide chain to the surface of nanoparticles because of their similar structures and chemical groups. When the particle comes in contact with the enzymes related to prostate cancer, the solution turns from blue to red, as shown. Oh, yeah.
The general tests for cancer include the ELISA and the SIRS, which are effective at detecting cancer and looking at it, but at the same time, they're expensive because they require high, costly resources and require medical facilities, so all people cannot access them commonly. And current tests specific to prostate cancer include prostate biopsy, digital rectal examination, and PSA blood tests. And they are all common, but prostate biopsy and DRE are invasive and sometimes ineffective, and PSA are ineffective sometimes because they rely on high level of PSA, which can be altered by physical activities, medications, and also other diseases such as UTI.
So our product is going to come in the form of self-administrative kits, much like a first aid kit, and each kit will include peptide-linked gold nanoparticles, which are basically just gold nanoparticles that are coated with the protein that's specific to the cancer being detected. Also, we will have test tubes, a buffer phosphate solution, and a glucose-style pinprick, which is not shown in the photo, but it will be used to extract the blood from the person. In order to test out our product and to perform the test, the patient will add gold nanoparticles into the test tube, followed by the buffer solution and the blood sample. Then they'll shake the test tube, and depending on the color of the resulting solution, the patient will be able to determine whether or not they have prostate cancer. Currently, our test does run on purified samples with the blood sample, but in the future, we hope to only run our tests on the blood samples. So currently, there are effective products out there, like how we talked about earlier. However, the 2 major costs that arise from these products are cost and accessibility. Our product tackles both of these issues because our product is actually 87% cheaper than the average prostate biopsy out there and 60 to 70% cheaper than the average PSA test out there. So, and we'll get into our costs later in this presentation, but the cost of our kit is definitely affordable to a wide range of audiences and people all over the world. Going to accessibility, since it is a self-administrative kit that we plan to distribute throughout pharmacies and clinics, it is easy to distribute and a lot of people can have access to it without having healthcare or professional aid. So we plan to tackle our solutions by first hiring researchers to further the specificity of the experimental method. Then we want to go through clinical trials, and then finally we want to get it FDA approved and then possibly advertise it to the public.
So as I mentioned earlier, for each kit will cost $20, and it provides 4 tests, which we expect to last one for an entire year, and each kit costs about $5 to make. So we expect our startup cost, including the production of 100,000 kits, will be around $1.5 million, which we expect to go down. And here are the total costs, the most important being the nanoparticles, which cost 30 cents.
Our goal for the future will be to expand beyond prostate cancer to other cancers.
Thank you.
So for the evaluation of your diagnostic, it just detects whether or not, yes or no, prostate cancer, correct?
Right.
So biopsies obviously can detect severity, location, and a variety of other system issues or systemic issues. So it's not a one-to-one comparison. So as far as other diagnostics, is there any other at-home or point-of-care diagnostic for any type of cancer?
So we didn't really go into that because our main goal was to prevent late detection. So we wanted to really have this test at home that consumers can use to, detect cancer without having access to like healthcare or, having that access to going to a hospital and talking with medical professionals. So we didn't really go into what would happen with like the severity of the cancer and other types. We just wanted to focus solely on like the detection of it, so then these consumers can then seek further aid.
So you said that currently everything's been done with purified samples, but that your goal was to do this as an at-home thing. It's my understanding that cross false positives from the other components of blood is the reason that these kinds of tests are not currently available, because the technology of bringing nanoparticles together is now pretty established. So what is your plan to make it so that it could be used without that purification?
So we mentioned that we wanted to hire some researchers and people working in the lab to help us with that, because we didn't really, go into detail about how to, fully rely solely on the blood samples. Right now, we just know that using the proteins and the phosphate buffer solution with the blood will allow it to detect it, but we didn't really go into detail with just how it would work with blood.
I'd like to ask you a question about what happens after the person does the test. So you're talking about a very serious illness. I take it that this result comes back more along the lines of the timeline of a pregnancy test. Is that correct?
Right.
So can you comment on the psychology of getting a diagnosis while you're perhaps sitting alone in your home, and how you're going to address the person in the moment when they get this diagnosis? I'd really like you to address that.
So we're assuming when the consumer goes and buys the test, they're doing it they know what they're getting into, and they have the proper support group and their family with them. So we're assuming that they're doing this at their own risk, and they know what's basically coming ahead. So we didn't, obviously at a hospital you have the comfort of the doctors and their specialization and their knowledge, but we're assuming that the consumers know what's going to happen.
Also, if I could expand on that, it's better to know before it's too late than to find out after it's a terminal illness that you can't cure. So
I have a question. It's four times a year. You have a test in your packet. You can do 4 tests a year. How often do men get tested for prostate cancer? Is it 4 times a year? I don't know.
It's usually once a year.
It's usually once a year.
Yeah.
Right.
So
why do you think that people will find that beneficial if it's for 4 tests a year?
Right. So we thought that having 4 tests would make it more, affordable, because when we say 4 tests a year, it doesn't have to be like in a year. It could be that they're, using it throughout a period of 4 years. It's not just
It'll last. There's what's the shelf life?
Yeah, that's the thing we didn't really get into, but since right now our solution is liquid, we're planning on making it into a solidified solution so that it has a longer shelf life, but we didn't really get into the specifics of like how long it is.
There's one more question.
So the idea of using color change in gold nanoparticles is established in the scientific literature. So I assume there's a whole bunch of patents on this already. So how would you negotiate the patents that are already out there, and how would you get licenses to make another product based on that overarching technology?
So we thought we could do that because a lot of the patents and the products that are using this technology are used in, they're not really administered the way that we want to do it over the counter and like a pharmacy or a clinic. A lot of those tests are done in labs or at hospitals, and we want to bring it back home. So we're hoping that the accessibility of our product and the way it's being administered is what's going to be making us different than what's currently there.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.